not wearing good underwear. And MeUndies will sell you some of the best underwear. It's really, I mean, first of all, it looks really good. They have all kinds of designs. Go on their website. You'll see it's meundies.com. You'll see that they keep restoring. They'll take requests and they'll create underwear to go with it. And it's like 3 times softer than cotton, the stuff they use. You know what I've been using it for? I've been using it to hike. I hike because it's so comfortable, and if you're a guy, it has extra supports and all this stuff. Plus, it's made from some crazy, I can't remember, is it an Austrian tree or something that it naturally cuts down on odor, which is why those Austrians can sneak up on you because you can't smell them coming. That's the thing. Plus, it comes with 100% satisfaction guarantee. They guarantee you will love your undies or your money back. Right now, MeUndies has an exclusive offer just for my listeners. You get 20% off your first pair and free shipping. And MeUndies is so sure you'll love their underwear, they even offer 100% satisfaction guarantee. You order a pair, you don't love it, you get a full refund. There's a no-brainer to try it. 20% off, free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee, and they really are incredibly comfortable and well made. To get this 20% off and free shipping and the guarantee, and get the best and softest underwear you'll ever own, go to meundies.com/Klavan. And once again, because it's hard to spell, it's Klavan. That's meundies.com/Klavan, Klavan. This is a limited time offer. So what are you waiting for? Start wearing the best underwear of your life. Go to meundies.com/Klavan right now. My friend Roger Simon over at PJ Media has a piece called Harvey will be a turning point of the Trump presidency. And he says, has Harvey shaken America seriously enough to diminish the cold civil war that has overtaken our country? Has it made our divisions seem at least a tiny bit more trivial? No doubt a hardcore of hate-filled bozos drunk on some witless ideology will always be with us. There's still a market for Guy Fawkes masks for adjunct junior college professors to pretend they're violent anarchist revolutionaries out of some Dostoevsky novel they never finished. Nevertheless, a flood of Noah-like proportions has a way of focusing the mind, at least for some, maybe even most of us, and Donald Trump has clearly done well thus far in his capacity of crisis manager-in-chief. It seems the presidential activity he was born for, the one most akin to running a large hotel construction job or renovating an historic ice skating rink. And that's right. That is absolutely true. This is what Trump loves to do. He likes to build stuff. He likes to fix stuff. He wants you to look at him. You know, it seems to me possible. How long can these people stew in their own hate before they start to notice that people are going to hate them back? You know, the other day, Tuesday, I think it was, Dianne Feinstein, one of the most liberal senators from this liberal state, California, was talking to liberals in San Francisco at the Commonwealth Club, and it sounded like I heard the moderator, the person talking to her, reading a question, sounded like a question from the audience, and the audience said, when will the Republicans turn on Trump and impeach him and reject him? And everybody's cheering and all this stuff. And she said, Dianne Feinstein said, you know, we've done impeachment. It's not so much fun. And then she said this.
Look, this man is going to be president, most likely for the rest of this term. I just hope he has the ability to learn and to change. And if he does, he can be a good president. And that's my hope. I have my own personal feelings about it. Yeah, I understand how you feel. I understand how you feel.
I understand how you feel because the people are shocked. They are shocked. And later, she issued a clarification because she sensed a little bit of like political problems there. So she sent a clarification. During this tumultuous time, I'm working to protect the progress we've made and find a way to get things done for Californians during a period of total Republican control. I've been strongly critical of President Trump when I disagree on policy and with his behavior. Most recently, I was appalled by his comments in response to Charlottesville and the pardon of Sheriff Joe Arpaio. President Trump said that there were very fine people in a crowd chanting, "Jews will not replace us. There's nothing fine about white supremacists, Nazis, the KKK." She couldn't get away with that if the press weren't lying about it. He didn't say that. Certainly, it was not what he was intending to say. Anyway, she goes on, well, I'm under no illusion that it's likely to happen. I will continue to oppose his policies. I want President Trump to change for the good of the country. But, you know, it was a moment. She let down her guard for a moment. You know, they are senators. They do want to pass laws. Trump is out there now pushing a tax code change, tax reform, which would be the first tax reform since, 30 years. It's been 30 years since they reformed this. There was just a story on Drudge about how people are spending more on their taxes than on food and lodging. It's ridiculous. So there is this opportunity to start to act in a bipartisan, at least a somewhat bipartisan way, if Trump can keep the discipline. Let's bring on Nolte. Have we got Nolte? The late John Nolte, the former John Nolte, like Nolte, there he is. The once and future John Nolte. You deserted us. You deserted us, Nolte. now, didn't I tell you never leave the family? What's wrong? Anyway, Nolte, just for those of you who don't know, he left the Daily Wire, where we loved him, and went back to Breitbart, where they love him even more. I think they really do love you over there. And I have to admit, I still haven't forgiven you for leaving L.A., so I want you to know I'm really ticked off now. But I have to admit, I went over and looked there, and I thought, there's something, it is your home, basically. What was it? What was it that turned your mind?
I think it was just that the Daily Wire is a great site, and I loved writing for the Daily Wire, and I love Ben and Jeremy. They're just two of the best guys you'll ever meet in this business, and they're two of the best employers you'll ever have in this business. But they're two different sites. They both fight in their own way, but I just felt that it was a better fit for my sort of belligerent skill set back at Breitbart. And there's a lot of history there, too. I was there at the beginning, and I was there for almost 8 years. So, it's one of those things where you try different things, but with the future of your country at stake, you got to go to where you think you can, do the best, have the most effect you can, if any. And I'm not saying the Daily Wire doesn't have an effect. There's no question that Ben Shapiro is a warrior when it comes to free speech. And I think what the Daily Wire does in fighting for traditional values, Judeo-Christian values, is extraordinary. But, what I do is just something different, and I just think it fit better over there. And the Daily Wire was very good to me. I think I was very good to them, and I wish those guys nothing but the best. And they're going to get links from me, and I'll always be their friend. And a consumer site as well.
I have to say, first of all, I really do second. I know we've talked about this privately, so I know that you're not just saying it, and I'm not just saying it. This is an amazing place to work, the Daily Wire, and it is because, Shapiro, he'll kill me if I let the public know, but he's actually a great guy, and so is Jeremy. And Jeremy really does. He hires some of the best people. This is an amazing place to work. But what we're really talking about, just to boil it down, we're talking about Donald Trump, I think. The Breitbart site have been Trump warriors, and I think it's fair to say that while we generally are in support of Trump when he is conservative, and I personally love some of the stuff he's doing with the news media. That stuff just makes me laugh out loud. But we have not we stick to what we feel are our principles. Each one of us a little different, but we stick to that, and we'll call Trump out. Whereas the Breitbart site really fights for him, doesn't it? Is that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, but I've also seen Breitbart turn against him. If you look at the site right now, no one's very happy about the people he's surrounding him with. They're not very happy about a number of things that are going on in foreign policy, which is something I'm not that familiar with. But I think that the Breitbart site is going to fight for national populism. I think that's where their fight is. And my fight is basically just against the media, and Breitbart is a potent site to fight the media with. Yeah. And I just published a piece where I put up a score that in the rap sheet of beating up journalists, Antifa is 10, and Trump supporters, despite the media narratives, is 0. Huh. And I just think that a piece like that. If I were to write a piece about the abortion, I think that piece would be much stronger at the Daily Wire. But a piece like that about Antifa, I think, is much stronger at Breitbart, just because one's the Army and the other one's the Navy.
All right. Well,
That makes sense.
that's fair enough. Well, let's talk for a minute about the media. I mean, this is basically the thing that drives you crazy, and it does me too. Are we overstating the effect of the media? I mean, we both. I mean, I love it when Trump goes off like Godzilla on the media, and it looks like, you know, the scene in Godzilla where he's destroying Tokyo. I love that stuff. Are they as big an enemy as we think they are, or are we exaggerating that?
I think that the media is not as strong as they were. I don't think. I think that the election of Donald Trump proved that the media does not have the moral authority or the sway with public opinion as they once did. So they're not as strong as, and they're losing their. It's a suicide by discrediting themselves. They're losing their power every day. But what the media is doing is shifting its tactics, and it's becoming a much more militant and violent organization. The media, Rush Limbaugh's right. The media has taken over. The media has told the Democrats, hold my beer. We'll take care of this. They've taken over the left. They now run the left. We don't hear from Nancy Pelosi or Charles Schumer anymore. The other thing that the media has done is twofold. They've sort of taken in Antifa, this left-wing terrorist group that goes around beating up everyone on the right, and white supremacists. One of the best undercovered stories, I think, of the whole Charlottesville thing is that the day after Charlottesville, Antifa was in Seattle beating up Trump supporters. And the media covers for them. The media rationalizes them. The media compares them to D-Day. You had Chuck Todd interview a guy, I think twice, who was trying to, and Chuck Todd treated him seriously. I mean, Chuck Todd, for crying out loud, the guy that took over for Tim Russert, is treating a guy seriously who's saying that you need to meet peaceful protesters who are white nationalists with violence, that's okay. And that's not okay. The great equalizer, if you want to become a Nazi, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Mother Teresa. Hit someone. Once you start violence, you're no better than a Nazi. So the media has taken on Antifa as their own personal little brown shirt army that runs around the country beating up everyone, just like Hitler's brown shirts did, who don't toe the political line. The second thing that the media is starting to do is use large corporations, these mega corporations, especially Facebook, especially Twitter. They're redefining hate speech to mean if you're tough on the border or if you disagree with same-sex marriage. And you're going to see a very strong censorship crusade under the guise of hate speech, where we're already seeing it, where on Facebook and on Twitter, you're completely cut off from the world, and the world is the internet now. These corporations are censoring us. They're taking away our free speech rights on a very powerful media. They're removing us from what is now the public square. And we saw the Daily Stormer and Stormfront, two despicable Nazi websites, Ku Klux. I mean, no one's defending this, but they can no longer find a web server to host their opinions. Now, if you're trying to encourage violence or justify violence, I have no problem with that. But if all you are spewing is venomous opinions, then I have a problem with corporations taking you out of the public square of the internet, because what we're seeing is the media conflating, ever expanding the definition of hate speech, ever expanding the definition of the alt-right just to include all conservatives. So between these fascist corporations and Antifa, the media has taken a very strident and militant approach towards their coverage and towards their enemies on the right.
You know, it really is true. They pull this trick where everybody on the right is a Nazi, but nobody on the left is connected to Antifa. You know, I mean, Antifa is just, they're just extremists. They have nothing to do with everybody else. But in fact, everybody on the right disowns the Nazis, everybody virtually, and there are not that many of them, whereas Antifa is pretty powerful, and nobody except Nancy Pelosi, God bless her, Nancy Pelosi will denounce them. Nobody will. You know, let me bring up this other thing. You know, I had this kind of weird insight the other day. I wrote this book years ago, True Crime, you know, that was made into a movie, about this reporter who's a terrible person. And the fact that he's a terrible person allows him to see through the strangling PC narrative to the truth. I mean, it's in part of his nasty personality that allows him to do that. And I compared him to Donald Trump. I think that one of the things about Donald Trump is that he is not constrained by some of the things that constrain the rest of us not to appear indecent, not to even worry about appearing racist. I don't think Donald Trump is a racist, but he doesn't even worry about whether he appears that way or not, where a lot of people do, and a lot of Republicans have been essentially turned into eunuchs by their fear of the media branding them racist. Is there, and I think this is a place where the Daily Wire, I can see where it may have been a constraint on you. Is there a moral hazard in attaching yourself to this guy? You know, you're going back to work for Steve Bannon, who, as we all know, is Sauron. The way he's portrayed in the press, he's basically assembling an army of orcs to take over Middle Earth. But he has, the thing about Bannon, I don't believe at all that he's a racist or anything like that. But he has given a voice to people like Milo Yiannopoulos and his group who play at racism. They think it's ironic. They think it's cute. They think it's funny. Is there any kind of moral hazard for you, who I know for a fact are not a racist, attaching yourself to a site that plays fast and loose with stuff like that?
Well, I just read this biography of Lenny Bruce, the comedian, who was just a degenerate. I mean, a total drug addict, a total loser, a user, a scumbag. But and there is no way the left would allow him to work today because of his racial, the things he said about, he satirized everyone. And I'm not concerned about the words people use. Now, there are some words, yes, there are probably two words. One is the N word, and the other one is the word fag. And I don't say the F word because I don't want anybody to confuse me with prude. There's certain words you can't use, but I don't concern myself with words. I concern myself with intent. And Lenny Bruce was not a racist. He was a scumbag. He was a human being, but he wasn't a racist. And Milo's not a racist. Milo's a gay Jew.
Right.
And I think that provocation, like what Lenny Bruce did and what Milo do, I think sticking it to the squares, I think pushing the boundaries of what we can say and what we can't say is a righteous message. Now, sometimes people can go too far, but that doesn't make them evil. But I would much rather be on that pirate ship than standing around with Mitt Romney and John McCain saying that Antifa is somehow the modern day version of the D-Day, that these are good people, that these are righteous people. So I think it's good to stick it to the squares. I think it's good to go after pieties on the right and the left. And I'm going to judge people by their intent. I'm not going to judge them by the things that they say. And I understand being a provocateur. I think provocateurs are very important. They were important in the 60s. They were important in the 50s to break the constraints so that people could enjoy the First Amendment. And today they're important because instead of the government restricting our speech, you have the establishment, you have the media, and you have politicians, and you have corporations censoring us. And I think that's a righteous cause right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think this shattering of this this smothering narrative that the left has created, where anything we say can be construed as racism. I mean, even if you criticize a president and he happens to be a black president, suddenly you're a racist, because, it has to be shattered, and possibly it takes the kind of extreme measures that people like this are willing to use. I got to say, I'm sorry to see you go, pal. I really am. You're one of the most honest
Thanks, buddy.
And one of the best observers of the media around. Breitbart is lucky to have you. I hope you'll continue to come on the show, though, because I love talking to you. So I hope you'll keep coming on. Tell Bannon.
You need to be corrected.
Okay. Tell Bannon he should come on and let me interview.
I'll do that.
That didn't sound that enthusiastic. All right, John Nolte, the Noltenator. You can read him over at Breitbart. He is one of the best. Thanks a lot, John.
Thanks, buddy.
Now, you may have wondered, part of that interview, if you were watching, I was looking in the wrong direction, and that was because I didn't wear my Hubble contact lenses, and I didn't know where the camera was. And the thing about Hubble contact lenses, first of all, if you wear contact lenses, it can be a pain in the neck. They run out. You have to run down and get them all the time. And, you need them. And plus, they're expensive. Like 4 companies, until Hubble came along, 4 companies controlled like 97% of the market. And because they were expensive, people would leave them in when they were supposed to be worn for a single day, and they get dry, and it's really not good for you. But now you can get them from Hubble.com, and you can get them for 60 contacts for $30, which means $1 a day. That's half the price of the other brands. So if you go to HubbleContacts.com, you get your first 2 weeks free. That's the first thing. You get the first 2 weeks free, plus every single day you get them for less, 60 contacts for $30. These are quality daily lenses for half the price of the other guys. They sell directly to you, so they don't have to offer contacts. So that's what makes it so cheap. And they can even send you to an optometrist if you need to get a new prescription. Go to HubbleContacts.com to get your first 2 weeks of lenses for free. That's 15 pair of lenses for free. You can't beat the deal. Hubble is offering my listeners 2 weeks of free contacts. HubbleContacts.com. You will get 20/20 vision for half the price. Because most places, if you pay half the price, you get 10/10 vision, which isn't going to do you any good at all. But it's HUBBLE contacts.com. Very comfortable contacts, very, very inexpensive. I have to mention, we're going to run out of time, so I want to do this a little quickly, but Nolte was talking about the censorship, this move towards censorship. And one of the big ones has been Google and YouTube, which are rerouting searches. They're working with leftist organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center. I mean, it's a hate group, basically, that does its hate by labeling other people hate groups. That's how they do it. And they've been rerouting searches so that if you search for, Prager, who's been having Dennis Prager is having a hard time getting his PragerU videos, monetized and up there. They're banning them and stuff like this, and it's nuts. So Google, right, funds all these think tanks. And they fund these think tanks to have an effect, obviously, on legislation so that they, as this monster corporation, can affect the law. I mean, this is all corporations do this, right? So the New America Foundation has received more than $20 million from Google and its parent company's executive chairman, Eric Schmidt, and his family's foundation since the think tank's founding in 1999. They've gotten over $21 million. And the money helped to establish this New America Foundation as an elite voice. I'm reading from the New York Times, a former newspaper, as an elite voice in policy debates on the American left, and it helped Google shape these leftist debates. So not that long ago, the European Union had a penalty, fined Google for being a monopoly and for practicing monopolistic practices. And one of the guys in one of the bureaus of this think tank, the New American Foundation, Barry Lynn, his name was, said, "Good for them. Good for them. That was the right thing to do. It is a monopoly, and the European Union was right to fine them." Barry Lynn is now out of a job. And the thing you have to know about this, by the way, is Lynn's part of this foundation is completely self-funded. He did not fund through Google, but Google's power over the overarching organization, the New America Foundation, it's kind of a creepy name to begin with. Do we need a New America? I thought the old one was kind of good. But anyway, the New America Foundation was taking so much money from Google that when they got angry at Barry Lynn, out Lynn went. And here he is explaining why he said what he said.
It was actually support for a decision that was aimed at ensuring that we have a political economy in the United States and Europe that is diverse and which power is not concentrated. That's what the decision was about. Our unit has been focusing on ensuring that there is going to be that we're not going to see massive concentration of power over the political economy of the United States in the hands of a few private individuals. That's what we've been doing for 15 years. That's what we will continue to do. That is what apparently, from as far as we can tell, that's what Google moved to suppress.
So, this is something, over at the Daily Caller, Luke Schwartz, an attorney, wrote a an opinion piece called Time for Republicans to Take Google's Antitrust Abuses Seriously. He says, over the last few weeks, conservatives railed against Google and other big tech companies for their left-wing bias. This has led to many, including Ann Coulter, Steve Bannon, and Tucker Carlson, to advocate regulating Google as a natural monopoly. While Google should not face antitrust scrutiny from Republicans because of its liberal political positions, it also shouldn't receive a free pass for anti-competitive conduct by the Democrats for the same reason. In fact, Google's strong ties with the Obama administration may have prompted the Federal Trade Commission to drop an investigation into search result manipulation in 2012. Republicans do not owe Google special treatment and should revisit the investigation into the monopoly's manipulation of its search results. You know, I agree, and because of that, you probably won't be able to watch this on YouTube. But I think it really is serious. I mean, this is the way, you know, some companies become so big that they are almost quasi-governmental agencies, and that is why people break them up, and that is why historically they've been broken up. If they're going to manipulate our opinions, if they're going to prevent us from getting the information we need to have informed opinions, from choosing our sides, not choosing what Google thinks our side should be, they should be broken up. They should be stopped. I mean, this really is an abuse of freedom of speech. All right, stuff I like. Do we have the stuff I like banner? No, we're just going to... All right. See, this is what I have to deal with here. No, it's stuff I like. All right, we'll do stuff I like without your crummy banner. Doggone it, we stand for stuff I like. You know, a lot of times on the mailbag, I get a lot of theological questions, religious questions, and all this. And I want to point you to a book that I just read recently that is very short. I won't say that it's an easy read. It's not an easy read, but it's not like a crushingly difficult read. It's called The Consolations of Philosophy by Boethius. Now, there's a modern book that somebody wrote called The Consolations of Philosophy, named after this book. But you want to get the ancient one by Boethius. Boethius was a politician and philosopher at the end of the Roman Empire. He served under one of the barbarian kings who threw the last Western emperor out. He rose to a very high level in the administration, and then he got nailed. He got, according to him, according to Boethius, he was wrongly convicted, and he was sentenced to death. And while he was waiting for death, and he was ultimately tortured and killed, while he was waiting for death, he wrote this book, Consolations of Philosophy. It's about 130 pages long, in which he has an imaginary conversation with philosophy herself. And she explains why he should not allow himself to be brought down by the fact that his fortune has run out. And it's not where the term Wheel of Fortune comes from. That comes from Pat Sajak. No, that it was older than Boethius, but it is where it was popularized. The Consolations of Philosophy became possibly the most influential book in the Middle Ages. Certainly influenced Chaucer and his Canterbury Tales, but it has been seen throughout the West. It's said to have influenced J.R.R. Tolkien in writing Lord of the Rings. And basically the thumbnail sketch is philosophy takes all the things that people desire, wealth and pleasure and fame and honor and glory, and tries to point out and show that these are all good things that are dead because they have been cut away from the one good thing, which is God, and that in looking for these things, you are really looking for God. And it kind of really explains this and why philosophy thinks so. And this is something that philosophers from Plato and Aristotle have thought, and basically Boethius was a translator of Aristotle. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I have to say that it totally shifted my point of view. In very brief terms, like I said, it's not an easy read, but it's not a hard read either, and it completely changed the way I look at philosophy and at religion. Next week, we've got Sebastian Gorka, we've got Victor Davis Hanson, a good lineup of guests. But it's a long Klavanless weekend, so you're probably not going to survive. So, it just as you go, I just want you to know that it's going to be a great week next week. So fight on to get through the Klavanless weekend. We will be here on Monday. I'm Andrew Klavan. This is the Andrew Klavan Show, and we'll end with Little Texas. Cut 7.
you.